German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer once warned that stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good than malice. In a world saturated by screens, his words ring truer than ever. When entire populations spend hours passively absorbing television content, critical thinking dies, and a new kind of threat arises, one that cannot be fought with weapons or laws. As architect Frank Lloyd Wright quipped, television is chewing gum for the eyes, a sweet distraction that entertains but nourishes nothing. Television was meant to inform, but it has become a tool of sedation, a system that appeals to our emotions and reflexes more than our reason. By design, it lures us into passive spectatorship. We watch stories unfold, but rarely engage or question. Neil Postman warned decades ago that television brings ruin to any intelligent understanding of public affairs, and that watching it requires no skills and develops no skills. In other words, TV spoon-feeds us pre-digested facts and images until our minds forget how to chew. We feel informed, yet our understanding remains shallow. In this video, we will explore why television is deliberately programmed to make society intellectually weaker, and how this slow erosion of thought serves deeper psychological and political purposes. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to lose hours in front of a screen? To sit down for just one episode and suddenly realize the day is gone? That's not an accident. Television is designed to make you a spectator, not a thinker. Unlike reading a book, which demands imagination and reflection, watching TV requires almost no mental effort. The screen does all the work. It paints the picture, sets the emotion, and tells you exactly what to feel. All you have to do is consume. And the more you consume, the less you create. Over time, this passivity reshapes the brain. We stop forming our own mental images, stop pausing to think, stop questioning. As theorist Neil Postman observed, societies built around reading encourage logic and reflection, but those built around television become fragmented, image-driven rather than idea-driven. The act of tuning in gives a quick dopamine hit, but thinking takes effort, and effort offers no instant reward. This slow shift has deep consequences. Our cognitive muscles weaken, focus fades, memory dulls. We become like the citizens in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, earnest and dedicated, yet with no storyline in mind, merely chasing amusement. We fill our days with trivial information but lose the ability to process meaning. Science confirms what philosophers long suspected. A sedentary, screen-saturated mind begins to decay. Those who spend several hours a day watching television show higher risks of depression, reduced gray matter, and even early cognitive decline. The brain, like a muscle, atrophies from disuse. Television also manipulates us emotionally, rather than intellectually. Its flashing graphics, dramatic soundtracks, and expressive anchors tell us what to feel instead of helping us understand why. We end up mistaking emotion for insight, quoting headlines without grasping the causes behind them. And our attention spans? They've collapsed. Modern viewers now struggle to stay focused for more than a few seconds. Raised on quick cuts and bright colors, our minds crave constant stimulation. When faced with real problems, those requiring patience or deep reasoning, we instinctively change the channel, both literally and mentally. This endless stimulation is a psychological drug. It trains the brain to avoid silence, to reject stillness, and to fear boredom, the very states where real thought begins. Ultimately, television turns knowledge into entertainment. As George Orwell predicted in 1984, the most trivial thing can become irresistible on screen. Because watching requires no skill, viewers believe their opinions are settled the moment a show ends. They stop reading, stop reflecting, stop resisting. We laugh at sitcoms, cry at dramas, rage at news panels, but rarely think about any of it. Television trains us to feel deeply, yet think shallowly. And that's the first way TV programs us to be stupid, by teaching us that it's easier to watch than to understand. You must have noticed how television gives us the feeling of being informed. Even when we've learned nothing at all, we flip through news channels, absorb dramatic headlines, watch debates filled with passion and noise, and yet, beneath all the flashing graphics and breaking news banners, very little truth remains. This is by design. Television doesn't teach us how to think. It tells us what to think. It thrives not on reason, but on emotion. Not on logic, but on spectacle. In a culture ruled by images, knowledge becomes entertainment. News becomes theater. The world is reduced to slogans and sound bites, fragments of information stripped of context or meaning. We begin to confuse the feeling of being informed with the reality of understanding. As Captain Beatty warns in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, if you don't want a man unhappy politically, don't give him two sides to a question. Better yet, give him none. Television follows this exact formula. It simplifies the world to one narrative, one voice, one emotion, often the one that keeps you watching. Complexity makes people uncomfortable. Certainty sells. And so we are fed one-dimensional stories that make us feel safe, satisfied, or outraged, but never uncertain. That false sense of clarity is the trap. Because when every issue is flattened into a headline, we stop wrestling with ideas. We nod along with the screen. We absorb the approved version of reality. And over time, our ability to think critically, to hold two opposing ideas and weigh them, begins to erode. Decades ago, Newton Minow called television a vast wasteland. He was right. For every thoughtful documentary, there are hours of sitcoms, game shows, and advertisements, distractions designed to numb, not nourish. The more trivial the content, the more normal it feels. Soon, laughter replaces thought, and slogans replace understanding. Psychologically, this repetition is powerful. When we see the same shallow ideas replayed day after day, our minds adapt to that level of depth. We stop expecting complexity. We begin to believe that what we see on screen is the whole truth. In Bradbury's words, the crowd becomes electric, buzzing, excited, but empty. Television creates what philosophers call illusory competence. You might recall a statistic, a celebrity's opinion, or a political slogan, but not the reasoning or history behind it. The mind feels full, but is actually hollow. It's the modern version of what the ancient Greeks called doxa, opinion mistaken for wisdom. And this illusion has consequences. When television becomes our teacher, we stop questioning the lessons. We see villains and heroes, crises and solutions, but all curated to evoke emotion, not understanding. We react, but we do not reflect. That's how manipulation works, through spectacle, not substance. It doesn't need to silence you. It only needs to keep you entertained, because a distracted mind is as defenseless as a censored one. Dietrich Bonhoeffer once warned, "Against stupidity, we are defenseless." Television manufactures that defenselessness. It floods us with stories so simplified, so emotionally charged, that they leave no room for thought. In the end, we mistake noise for knowledge, and willingly surrender our intelligence for the comfort of the show. And that's the second way television programs us to be stupid, by making us feel informed while keeping us ignorant by design. I have done this too, laughing at the same jokes, watching the same shows, and repeating the same phrases from last night's news. It's as if television has synchronized our minds. Millions of people thinking alike, feeling alike, and believing alike. That's not cultural unity. That's psychological control. Television's greatest illusion isn't just that it entertains us. It's that it makes us believe we're choosing what to watch. In truth, it's programming us to value sameness over individuality. By delivering the same messages, emotions, and aesthetics to millions, television breeds conformity. It conditions people to fit in rather than stand out. Ray Bradbury foresaw this in Fahrenheit 451. Captain Beatty proclaims, "We must all be alike, everyone made equal, each man the image of every other, then all are happy. And that's exactly what television does. It makes us happy by eliminating difference. When everyone watches the same shows and hears the same opinions, individuality becomes uncomfortable, even suspicious. In this so-called equality, we all share the same shallow attention span and the same hollow vocabulary of pop culture. Psychologically, this conformity runs deep. Television teaches emotional synchronization. We're trained to laugh at the same punchlines, fear the same villains, and admire the same hollow heroes. People who question these norms, who think differently or deeply, are quickly dismissed as boring, too serious, or overthinking. In such an environment, intelligence becomes a liability. The more you question, the lonelier you become. This is how societies begin to worship stupidity, not because people choose ignorance, but because it's easier than standing apart. Television offers comfort in uniformity. It makes thinking seem like a burden, and conformity seem like freedom. Dietrich Bonhoeffer described this phenomenon with haunting precision. He wrote that the stupid person is utterly self-satisfied, and being easily irritated becomes dangerous by going on the attack. The person shaped by mass media doesn't doubt. They defend their beliefs with the fervor of the indoctrinated. Show them evidence, and they'll dismiss it as fake. Challenge their views, and they'll respond with slogans, not logic. That's the dark genius of television. It manufactures certainty. It replaces genuine understanding with emotional conviction. When millions are conditioned this way, reason itself becomes the enemy. Discussion gives way to outrage. Truth gives way to tribalism. And this conformity is almost self-reinforcing. Television doesn't just suppress dissent, it teaches us to police it ourselves. The viewer who dares to think differently feels alienated, mocked, or irrelevant. So we conform, not out of belief, but out of exhaustion. Bonhoeffer understood that no amount of reasoning can free a society trapped in this kind of stupor. He wrote that the only way to overcome stupidity is through an act of liberation, not instruction. In other words, people must first free themselves from comfort, from distraction, from the screen, before they can truly think again. But how many of us are ready to turn off the show and face the silence? Television promises escape, but it's an escape from ourselves. It teaches obedience disguised as joy, conformity disguised as connection. And every time we trade thought for entertainment, we surrender another piece of what makes us human. As Friedrich Nietzsche warned, the surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently.